Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into a little bit of a flashback here to week one of the 2019 college football season. I'm going to be going through all of the ranked games. It's just kind of interesting how quickly college football changes. We remember 2019, the year that was owned by LSU, with Joe Burrow having one of the greatest seasons ever. We're going to first begin with the preseason poll. How about Clemson, the number one overall team going into 2019? They still had Trevor Lawrence. He was second in terms of Heisman preseason odds. They were in their dynasty. They were in their prime. Alabama at number two with Nick Saban. Tua Tagovailoa was number one in preseason Heisman odds going into his junior year. Georgia at number three, Jake Fromm starting there. Oklahoma, after losing Kyler Murray, he goes off to the draft. Jalen Hurts comes in as a transfer from Alabama. They're at number four at that point under Lincoln Riley. Ohio State with Justin Fields, the new transfer. Ryan Day gets him before the portal. He gets the immediate eligibility. They begin the season at number five. LSU at number six with Joe Burrow. This was Joe Burrow coming off kind of a disappointing first year with the Tigers, only 14 passing touchdowns, but they were ranked number six. You do have Michigan with Shea Patterson trying to get over that Ohio State hump at this point at number seven. Florida, a lot of preseason hype at number eight. Notre Dame, and then Texas rounding out the top 10. You can take a look at the top 15. Oregon, A&M, Washington, Utah, and then Penn State there. And then this was kind of funny. I looked up the preseason Heisman odds, and the first player that came up, Joe Burrow, plus 10,000 to win the Heisman. Oh, I was wrong. He had 16 touchdowns his junior year with LSU, plus 10,000. Pretty good bet. That means if you put $100 on it, and, you would win 10K. Pretty amazing. But there you can see the number one Heisman player was Tua. He was plus 260. The number two player was Trevor Lawrence. He was plus 300. And then Justin Fields was the number three player, plus 900. But we're going to just go through all the games, beginning, of course, with college football in week one. How about the Thursday night games? Clemson opens up as the number one team in the nation at home against Georgia Tech. I remember Travis Etienne having a huge game in this one. They easily beat Georgia Tech. Texas A&M crushes Texas State 41-7, kind of an uneventful game. Utah beats BYU 30-12, little in-state rivalry there. And then UCF destroys FCS Florida A&M 62-0. Dylan Gabriel started that game, and his backup was Brandon Wimbush, the transfer from Notre Dame. Moving on to the few Friday games, the ranked games, Michigan State. They always play a random Friday game to start the season at home against just a nobody, so they face Tulsa. They win kind of a boring game, 28-7. And then Wisconsin had a very strange road game at Raymond James Stadium against South Florida. Jonathan Taylor went crazy in this game, and they won. They were ranked number 19. They began 2019 ranked 49-0. Moving on to the Saturday games, Alabama has that weird, I believe I reviewed this game in just kind of a random games video I did, but Bama faced Duke in a non-conference Chick-fil-A kickoff sham game in Atlanta, Georgia. This was Tua, going into the season, everyone thought he was going to win the Heisman. Certainly he started off well, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, just 5 completions. Jerome Ford, who ended up transferring to Cincinnati, also there, along with Jerry Jeudy having a big game. You've got Georgia kind of playing a very boring, random conference game on the road at Vanderbilt to start the season. Kind of strange they begin the season against an SEC team. Jake Fromm, this was after Justin Fields transferred out. DeAndre Swift has a good game, but just kind of a boring game. They win that 30-6. Ohio State beats Florida Atlantic 45-21. I remember this game. Ohio State was up 28-0 in the first quarter. Justin Fields makes his debut with Ohio State. 4 touchdowns, pretty impressive numbers. J.K. Dobbins, Chris Olave. How about Harrison Bryant? He's been a decently solid NFL player out of Florida Atlantic, but Ohio State wins that game easily. LSU begins their national championship run 55-3 over Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern really isn't that bad of a program. Joe Burrow, 23 of 27, 278, 5 touchdowns, more touchdowns than incompletions. Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I mean, at that point, nobody really thought LSU I mean, sure, they were ranked number 6th or whatever, but, you beat Georgia Southern. It's really not that impressive. Michigan was taking on Middle Tennessee. They win this game 40-21. Zach Charbonnet, before he transferred to UCLA, goes 8 carries, 90 yards. Shea Patterson, remember the huge transfer from Ole Miss. Shea Patterson, a former top 5 overall player, goes to Ole Miss. They get hit with those sanctions. He transfers to Michigan. This was one of his teams, and Michigan opened the season at number 7. You do have Texas beating Louisiana Tech. They were ranked number 10. Sam Ehlinger starts the year off pretty nice. Brendan Eagles. I wonder what happened to Brendan Eagles. That's a great name for a receiver. And he was like a top 60 overall player. I thought he was going to be a 5-star, but I think he finished as a high 4-star. But Texas starts off the season well. Oh, this game. Yeah, this was a neutral site game. Auburn taking on Oregon. Bo Nix facing Oregon. Justin Herbert versus Bo Nix. Bo Nix, 13 of 31. Ouch. 177. That is a terrible completion percentage. Auburn ends up winning this game. I do remember it. Yeah. What an interesting time. Auburn beats Oregon in a close game there. Oh, it was a neutral site. Yeah, the game was it was in SEC country. I remember that. You do have Washington beating Eastern Washington 47-14. How about Jacob Easton? Was that his best game ever in his college career? 4 touchdowns, 350 yards. The former 5-star transfer from Georgia goes off for Washington. They thought they had a great quarterback, I'm sure. Penn State randomly almost drops an 80-burger. 79-7 over FCS Idaho. Sean Clifford, KJ Hamler, he was a beast. Penn State gets an easy win. Iowa, ranked 20th, beats Miami of Ohio. Another kind of boring game for Iowa. Although Nate Stanley, to be fair, Nate Stanley was a really good quarterback for the Hawkeyes. Definitely better than what they've had. Iowa State, ranked number 21 initially in 2019. It takes triple overtime for Brock Purdy, who almost won MVP as a second-year NFL player and almost won the Super Bowl. Takes triple overtime to beat Northern Illinois. He ends up throwing 2 touchdowns, but it's just funny how it works out like that. 29-26, kind of a random game. I certainly forgot that game even existed. Syracuse starts the season ranked number 22, Tommy DeVito. We know he made his name in the NFL as a backup for the Giants, having some decent games. He had a brutal game. Under 50% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, but they shut out Liberty 24-0. How about Syracuse starting the season ranked? Good for them. I remember when New Mexico State was just horrifically bad. Yeah, 2019 was definitely a year. Washington State was ranked 23rd. They win 58-7. Anthony Gordon, a forgotten college star, goes for 420 and 5 touchdowns. Nobody remembers him, even though he just recently played 5 years ago. How about Nebraska starting the season ranked? They win 35-21. South Alabama is actually a decent college program, but this was definitely kind of a step down for Nebraska to start the season ranked and to really struggle with South Alabama. Adrian Martinez back for his 7th year, kind of struggles in that one. And then you did have Stanford. What a bore fest this is. I remember when Northwestern beat Stanford back in 2015 when Stanford had Christian McCaffrey, and then Stanford returns the favor. I think Northwestern won 17-7. Or something like that, and then Stanford wins 17-7. These teams are they're academic schools. KJ Costello, yeah, just a boring game there. Nothing really to share. Ben Soronik, he's a decent NFL receiver. And then this was the Sunday night game. So we know college football, they've got Thursday games, Friday games, a bunch of Saturday games, and then in week 1 they have one Sunday game because it's the week before the NFL starts, and then one Monday game. The Sunday night game was Houston and Oklahoma, and this is when De'Aaron King was still on Houston, and Jalen Hurts made his debut transferring from Alabama. What a crazy debut. The dude threw for 333 touchdowns, ran for 176 and 3 touchdowns, so he had 6 total touchdowns and 500 total yards. Charleston Rambo, what a great name for a wide receiver. He ended up transferring to Miami, but Oklahoma wins that game. They give up a lot of points, though. That's a typical Lincoln Riley team. And then the final game of the week, kind of a boring game here with Notre Dame and Ian Book. How about Chase Claypool there beating Louisville 35-17. I remember we thought that Louisville had a chance to win that game in an upset, and it just didn't happen. I mean, so many people always think Notre Dame's going to get upset, and to credit to Notre Dame, normally they never get upset. They just lose to teams that are better than them. It's hard for them to get over the hump outside of that game against Marshall. I remember they lost a game to Marshall a few years ago. But either way, guys, that's just having some fun looking back week 1 of 2019, where all these teams were at. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.